I should get lower. Hello. Best straight out of camera Fujifilm settings. Now, if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, they give great advice, but I feel like they're giving advice to, professional shooters, people shooting weddings or making feature films. And a lot of us just want to take good videos on vacation. And this video came about because I was rewatching some 2017 footage that I took with my Fujifilm X-T20 with the 18-55 kit lens, and all I did was put it on video mode and go to auto because I didn't know what I was doing. And I took really good to very good video in 1080p. Let me show you some of that. Forget you! No! Goodbye! No! No! We're at a, what the heck's going on here? Look at this. These guys are dancing outside. Well, we are here at the Golden Gate Brewing.
Daddy, I gotta grab on to Dad. Dad!
The hills are too strong. Parachute! You know what struck me most about the videos is it wasn't really about the quality or the colors. It was seeing the kids and seeing where we were and seeing the city. So, it's always the same thing. Your content is more important than your settings. So really, this video is for people who want good to very good video quality. You don't need the highest super settings that will tax your hard drive and take up so much space on your card. And so here are the settings that I use. Number one, let's talk about the look. And this is a personal preference, but straight out of camera, I like using the Provia film simulation. It's the standard because I feel the colors are the nicest in Provia. The colors are rich. They're not very washed out like some of the other film simulations. Like Classic Chrome is kind of washed out. And also Eterna, which a lot of people in the newer Fujifilm cameras have the film simulation called the Eterna. And I've used that before. It's kind of nice. It looks like film, but it's kind of washed out. So if you want the nicest colors, use the first film simulation, standard film simulation. Now, video doesn't need to be as punchy and strong and saturated as photographs. So you have to tone down your Provia a little bit. So I take my colors down -1, I take my shadows and make them -2 because the Provia is just a little bit too contrasty, and bring your highlights down -1, and this is what you get. It's what I'm filming now. Your next decision is 4K versus 1080p. Now, as you could see from the videos I took of my kids at 1080p, 1080p is good enough. But what I used to think was that 1080p took a lot less hard drive space than 4K. And it turns out that they're kind of close. If you're shooting at the same what's called bit rate, let's not get too technical, 4K files are only slightly larger. So at first I would have recommended just shoot everything in 1080p to save a lot of hard drive space. But believe it or not, if you shoot 4K, you're gonna pretty much be around the same file sizes as 1080p. So I would recommend shooting 4K if you're in once in a lifetime kind of places. So in that San Francisco video, I noticed I didn't shoot 4K of the Golden Gate Bridge or some of the other landmarks, and the kids don't matter. You could shoot them at 1080p, but later, it seems like when we went hiking, I switched the camera to 4K to get a little bit more detail, and you can see the difference. You can see the difference in 4K versus 1080p if you play your stuff on a large screen. And so we have a 4K TV downstairs, and you kind of do notice the difference if you have it on a larger screen. What else do we have? Okay, frame rate. 24 frames a second versus 30 frames a second. If you're a casual shooter, I just recommend 30 frames a second. That gives you a little bit of a crispier look. Motion looks better at 30 frames a second. 24 frames a second is supposed to be for more cinematic. It's what movies are shot in. And I just feel like the images aren't as, if you're like traveling, I think 30 frames a second might be a little better if you're a casual shooter. If you know what you're doing and you know what your final outcome's gonna be, like you're trying to go for more movie-ish cinematic, sometimes I use 24 frames a second. Okay, so Provia adjusted, 4K, 30 frames a second. Those are the settings. Now, if you have a newer Fujifilm camera, like a Fujifilm X-T3 or X-T4, those are great for professionals because you can dive deeper and shoot in like higher bit rates. Like for example, you can shoot in 8-bit, which is what I'm shooting now, or you can shoot in 10-bit, which gives you a little bit more richer color. You can also shoot 100 megabits per second, 200 megabits per second, 400. It gets all confusing. Just know this, 4K 30 at 100 megabits per second gives you really good video, okay? 100 megabits per second, and it keeps your file sizes down. You know, you can move up to 200 megabits per second, but it just halves the amount of hard drive space and card space. So I shoot everything at 100 megabits per second because it all looks fine to me. If you start to notice that your videos are annoying you for some reason, like there's little artifacts and stuff, then that means you are getting, you're caring more about video. And that's when you need to start moving or researching more and getting into 200 megabits per second. 400 is just overkill. I really can't tell the difference even with motion. I did all these tests with 265, 10-bit. Really, I think I don't care enough about video. I care more about moments. So that's why I made this video, is for the rest of us. The non-professionals, the non-wedding videography videographers. Now, what shutter speed and camera settings you should be on? If you're a casual shooter, honestly, you could shoot everything in full auto, as you could see in my San Francisco video. Videographers will hate you for that because they like to have their shutter speed be double the frame rate. So if you're shooting at 30 frames a second, you're supposed to be at 1/60th shutter speed, to get the right motion. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For casual shooters shooting on vacation, I would set the camera to, as best as you can, a shutter speed that is slowest, but don't worry about it. It don't matter. I think what matters more is your aperture. So right now I'm at 2.0, and you get a nice, prettier cinematic look. Let me put this on f8 so you could see. Okay, I lied, f11. f11, you could see more of the background, so it doesn't look as good. So I would say if you're a casual shooter, try to keep your apertures down. And so instead of shooting full auto, you can shoot in aperture priority mode. So set the aperture on the lens and set the shutter speed to be on auto, and that way the camera will pick a shutter speed. Might as well set your ISO to auto as well, and you're good to go. Ooh, you see? That looks so much better. All right, hope that helped you guys. I'll see you next time. You guys want to climb it?